Okay, this video has been a long time coming. I actually had debated starting videos several years ago, and the subject matter that I started with was not very popular by the, um, by uh, the powers that be. It was actually about masks. And we were going through the time where it's back and forth, first starting, and whether or not to wear them or not. And even the powers that be couldn't decide. So I put out a little video just explaining about masks. But um, I've been really praying about it and really, working on the content for this channel. And even at the time, didn't have a specific name for the channel. So I wanted to do this video about how I picked the name for this channel. It does originated from my last name, but it does have biblical meaning for me, as well as a kind of a humorous aspect. So there's three aspects, three reasons that I chose this name. Land cleared by fire. Um, the I want to start though with the biblical. Um, so for pretty much my whole life, um, since I was a little fella, have been a Christian. Um, I have known the Lord that whole time. My mother was a Christian. My father was recently born again, and when I was little, and so there were some things that occurred in my life and throughout my life that were very significant in my knowledge of God and of Christ. Um, so I will be sharing that in future videos, uh, my testimony overall, and also um, some of the things that have happened throughout my life. Some of them very significant, very spiritual, um, and I think you'll be pretty interested in those things. But this video, I wanted to talk about the again the name of the video, how I chose it, and the different aspects. So I'm gonna start with the scriptural part of it. So um, there were many scriptures that refer to God being a consuming fire or the fire of God, and how it's cleansing, and that God will go before you and burn your enemies, um, and clear the land. So, or at least clean the land. So with that, I began to look and check, and one of the scriptures that I kept kind of going back to, and I want to lead with in this particular video. I will be sharing other videos or other scriptures as I go along with different videos, future videos. This is does come from the NIV, New International Version. It is one of the versions or translations that I prefer. There are many of them out there. In future videos, if you would like, we can talk about the different versions and translations and what that means, what those mean. And I use many times I'll go in studying, I'll go into different versions and see what they say, translations. Um, but the NIV is the one that I fall back on most of the time. So this is in Deuteronomy 4, um, verses 23 and 24. The Hebrews 12:29 refers to this particular scripture. So I wanted to read 23 to give a little bit of a foreground to it, and then 24 is the main scripture. So 23, be careful not to forget the covenant of the Lord your God that he made with you. Do not make for yourselves an idol in the form of anything the Lord your God has forbidden. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, jealous God. All right, so the scripture refers to having idols and making idols before God. And the last actual thing that is said is he's a jealous God. So I believe that we have become a nation that was originally based on biblical principles and on scriptures, and we've gotten away from that. And we've, as Christians, we've allowed it to be that way. So I think that it is time that we get back to the principles of that God gave us, that we should stand on, His covenant that He has with us, first for the Jews, but then for the Gentiles, and that because of Jesus Christ, we are able to be adopted into that family. But more importantly, this nation was built on those principles of caring, loving, and also being respectful of others, tolerant, but on the same token, being based on those Judeo-Christian principles. And I think that we need to get back to that. We need to be more focused on the things of God. We need to be more focused on what the scriptures say. So in future videos, I will be sharing more scriptures and basically what I feel is being said by those. But one of the things that I want to talk about is, and that is the aspect that I based the name Land Cleared by Fire on, is 24, where it says, "For the Lord your God is a consuming fire." And I do believe that this land needs to be cleansed and cleared by God's consuming fire. You can take it however you want to. I know some people may be offended because you think I'm talking about you. If that's the case, then that's probably is true. But our God is a consuming fire, and our God, if we call on Him, call on His name, He will go before us and stand against our enemies. So I believe we need to get back to that. And we have been seeing this starting to happen, especially among the youth. Excuse me. We're seeing more of the youth starting to come to God, to Christ specifically. And, we're seeing that fire go forth. Another thing I do want to share with you, I am neither a Catholic nor a Protestant. I do not believe that that if you're not a Catholic, you're protesting against Catholics. I am a scriptural Christian, biblical Christian. That first and foremost has nothing. My belief has nothing to do with whether it's Catholic or not. It's based on the scriptures, and that is first and foremost. So I don't even consider myself within any denomination. There are a lot of denominations that I agree for the most part with, but there is not one that I wholeheartedly agree with. In fact, the denominations, I do have some issues with denominational ties. So I understand them 100%. I get why they're there, but I don't agree with it. So just to let you know that. So anyway, the second aspect has to do with my name, my last name, which is in the English is Brandt. It is we do have still the German mosquito, do have the German spelling still with our name. It's Brandt. It is a old German word, ancient German from the ancient German language, the original, and um, that word literally means land cleared by fire. So, with that is uh, how it came to be. Now, I want to tell you a little story about how I learned that and go into a little bit about the word and where how it relates actually in English, what the actual English word is. So, um, when I was young, there were stories that came down from my my father's side of the family. Um, didn't have a large Brandt family. Um, there, even though my grandfather, um, he had quite a few uncles. He was named after his father and two of his uncles, um, and they also came from a large family of mostly males. So there was a lot of big family, a lot of Brandt men. Um, However, my father was an only child, um, and my grandfather was the oldest of two, and his brother never married, um, and so he never had children. So my father was the only one, but we had heard stories of the Brandts and where we had come from. However, we had no actual details and had no proof of it. Um, we did get contacted when I was a young teenager from a distant family that member that was actually from my great great grandfather's brother. They were that was their family tie back to us. And they had contacted us. They had gone into searching their ancestry and had run across that, had located us through actually using private investigators and stuff. Back then, you didn't have the internet like you have now and able to just go on and uh, search things. Also, didn't have DNA testing that we have now, um, which I have had my DNA tested several years back. That confirmed a lot of things that we had already learned. Um, but anyway, getting back to when I was a young teenager, learned a little bit from there, but basically, our history only went back to where the cathedral burned down and lost a lot of the records. So in that was all that we knew was basically my great great grandfather had come over from Germany with his brother as a cabin boy on a ship during the Civil War. They came over to fight for the North and ended up their ship that they were on was held offshore during the war, and they jumped ship and swam ashore, joined the Union Army, where they both survived. My great great grandfather's brother remained in the Union Army, actually made history, from my understanding, as having the most horses shot out from under him and still survived. Uh, my great great grandfather went back to Germany after the war and got married an Irish woman, which was kind of funny because my great grandfather also married a Irish ancestor woman. Um, but the ended up that they came back over and they wanted to come into the South, so they went through Charleston Harbor, Charleston, South Carolina, and that's pretty much where our family has stayed. The Brandt family has stayed um, since. So um, anyway, as a 20-something-year-old, I was working at a plant running a machine that they were going to add um, some components to. They were German, and in the installation of these components, the owner's son, the creator of the component, his son came over to install the parts, and we got to talking. They were a German company. He was full German, from Germany, spoke very good German, of course, but he had told me that during his college thesis that, believe it or not, coincidentally, he did his college thesis on our last name. His mother's maiden name was Brandt. He was the one that told me how to pronounce it. Now, I am going to probably offend some Germans in trying to pronounce my name properly. I cannot do the R's at the back of my tongue. I have to do it with the front of my tongue, which I have been told since that that's okay. Some Germans actually do that. Now, the old Germans, they look down on it, but I'm gonna do my best and pronounce the name Brandt as best as I can in German. So here goes. It's Brandt. Okay, Brandt. All right. So in that, some of you may have noticed it sounds kind of like another English word. Brandt. 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 Now, if you look at the etymology of my last name, Brandt or Brandt, it actually, they've got it a little wrong, which is kind of strange to me that the experts got it wrong. I don't know why experts don't get things wrong, do they? So the etymology, not entomology, that's insects. Etymology, the study of words, and especially with the names. Our last name, Brandt. By the way, if you're also Brand or Brandt, Brant, those are derivations of the German name, which experts kind of get that wrong too. They basically, in the etymology of it, the experts basically say that my last name is a derivation of English. The problem of it is that word, Brandt or Brunt, actually was around well before English even existed. So it ends up that they've got that wrong. The other part of it is that the English, as way I understand it, is basically derivations of several languages, but German being the most consistent. Just to give you an idea, our word for like water is actually the German word Wasser, means same thing, it's water. But if you take in the spelling WASSER, change the double S's to T, same word. And literally, from my understanding, just about every German word that has SS in it, change that to T, and you pretty much almost have the English word. Another good example of a word sounding very similar, having a similarity, is our word good. The German word is Guten, 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 and you can see where Guten, good, Guten. So there's a lot of other words that are like that have similar sounding. The word brunt, can sound like burnt. And actually, that is where we get burnt. Now, the etymology experts, again, have it only going back so far in the English language. But again, this is literally literally is Brent. B-R-N-D-T, derivation B-U-R-N-T. So always wondered when I was growing up why it was burnt instead of burned. So if you went out, set fire to your yard, and got through, the yard was burnt, not burned, burnt. And it literally is burnt, 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 burnt. So burnt. And that is actually where it comes from. Now, again, I'm no expert. I'm just an uneducated Southerner, so I don't know. In fact, some people say I'm deplorable. And garbage. So, anyway, wanted to share that with you, that part of it. But continuing on, that German, he had written his thesis, his college thesis on that and where the Brant family came from. And in that, he found that, by the way, that was literally where the English, according to Germans now, that's where the English word burnt came from. In English etymology, it doesn't, but German etymology does say that that is where the English burnt came from, was from the old German word brunt. He had told, we had already heard through family stories and also from that other family that the Brant family originated out of the Northeast, but settled in the Black Forest mountain regions of Germany. And that was pretty much the way it was told. The way that that German, Mr. Fulmer, had told me was that the was pretty much the same thing, was that the Brant family originated out of the Northeast and settled into the Black Forest mountain regions, but he actually gave a little bit more detail. So we originated out of the Northeast from across the sea, which means Scandinavian, which the DNA tests confirm that. I am considered, my ancestry to blood shows that we are ancestor a Viking, so Vikings. So it ended up that they came into Germany, and the way that they ended up settling in the Black Forest regions, mountain regions, is also how we got the last name Brant. Literally, what had happened was that there were bandits coming out of the mountains and out of the Black Forest area, raiding villages and towns, and they would come in, raid, and then go back through into the Black Forest and into the mountains. And it ended up that the German people couldn't seem to catch them, couldn't do anything about it. Whenever they would go in there, either they wouldn't return, or when they did return, it was that they couldn't find the bandits. So it ended up that my ancestors made a deal with Germans, the German royalty, that they would go in and take care of the bandits, clear out the raiding parties, and any land that they took possession of would, of course, be German, but also they would own. So my family, my ancestors would own that land. And the Germans, of course, agreed, said, go for it. So literally, they became one of the largest landowners at the time because they went in and cleared the mountains, Black Forest and the mountains regions with fire. Now, they didn't go in and just burn. They did as a Viking would do. They went in, found villages, and if the villages were found to be giving any aid to the bandits or were part of bandits. They just burnt the village down. And they would also burn off any crops or anything that could sustain any bandits coming back in. So even if they just aided the bandits, they still destroyed by burning it with fire. And this was so predominant that literally our coat of arms, the Brant coat of arms, has 3 mountains on fire. There are some subsequent ones that just have mountains with brands burning above them, but the main coat of arms, royal coat of arms, actually shows that there were 3 mountains on fire. And that's the main portion of the coat of arms. So that even kind of confirms the stories and what was told. So just wanted to give you a little bit of aspect of where it comes from. Now, the kind of humorous part was that when I was in my teens and early 20s clearing our property that I live on now, my father bought 20 acres and in an area that he kind of grew up in. He mainly lived in Charleston, South Carolina, but had distant. His mother's family is from the Cottageville area. And we bought 20 acres when I was a teenager out here. And in one of the things that I found very helpful to help clear some of the light brush and leave clutter that was all over the ground and some of the roots, fine roots, the root masses, was using fire. So literally when we found out that was what the name meant, the word meant, it was kind of humorous that here I was clearing the land with fire. And that was literally how our name, what our name meant. So I just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was kind of humorous, but that was the 3 aspects of how I came up with the name for this channel, Land Cleared by Fire. I do also want to share that as these videos go along, I am going to be sharing more about my life, about things that I do, some of the hobbies, some of the things I've done in my life, such as I've been a welding welder, fabricator welder. I had a business fabricating welder for a few years until COVID shut it down. I've been a state licensed HVAC refrigeration contractor. Did a lot of commercial work, refrigeration, and restaurant services. Had been working in construction, electrician, and had used those for my business with restaurant services. I'm going to be sharing more about those things as we go along. I'll be sharing some of the things I've learned in gardening. That is pretty much what I do most of the time now is garden, but I still do some welding and some crafts and stuff. Do a lot of woodwork. So be sharing some videos on those things as we go along and trying to share some things that I've learned with you. Also sharing scriptures, as I've said, maybe even do some short Bible studies, videos, Bible study videos, those kind of things. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've stuck around for the entirety. I know it's 30 minutes long, but hopefully you've enjoyed it and got a little kick out of it. But again, as I've said with a lot of this, and I say on my short videos, remind people I'm no expert. I'm just an uneducated Southerner. So hope you enjoy. Share the video so that I can get to making more of these videos and get it around, and more people can maybe enjoy hearing from a old Southern deplorable, uneducated white dude. Bye.